Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
Welcome to a very special edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. And we have a special guest on the line who has a Kickstarter campaign dropping via the Lab Press on October 7th, talking about two subjects we love to talk here at Nerd Initiative, because we can talk horror, and you know we can talk wrestling. Put them in the same book, but when you also have the writer of The Exiles, Kids and Monsters, and Kill Journal attached to this project, you know you have our attention. So please welcome to the show from the upcoming Mad Dog Morgan Kickstarter campaign, the one and only Adam Lawson. Adam, what is going on?
Dude, I am just happy to be here and to be talking comics, wrestling, and horror all rolled into one.
Yeah, like I say, when this came across our way, we're like, oh, this is all this. If you want to talk about something that is Nerd Initiative, this is it. Comics, wrestling, and horror. Like, if we had the entire panel here from Turn a Page, they would be all jumping about this. But I carry their energy with me, because when I saw the pictures of the promo art for this, man, there's a lot going on. So let's start with, how did this whole story come to be?
Yes, you know, it started years ago when I watched this documentary called Behind the Mask, and in it there's this interview with Jake the Snake, the wrestler, if you remember from back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you could ever forget him. And the interviewer asked him this question, and he started to break down and get into tears, and he was talking about how his dad, you know, could never get his dad's respect. You know, his dad never appreciated what he was, and how he never got that approval. And then his dad had gone to the grave, and he never got it from him. And that feeling had always kind of sat with me, that feeling of this epic, personality in the ring, but on the inside was just dying, right? And I think that sort of sat with me for years. Like, I want, what is that story? And so kind of piecing that together, it was like, how do I get something that isn't some soapy, sappy drama, but that's full of action and adventure, and horror just became the perfect genre to place it in, right? A place where you could be frightened, where terrifying things could happen, but you could have this incredible character arc tucked into the middle of it. And in this story, so that was really sort of the beginnings of it. And I'm always been a big fan of wrestling. I love the performance nature of it. It's sort of like the sports entertainment, or performance sports. It's just such a fun experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And I kind of never get tired of it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I was just watching WWE the other day, and it just like Rhea Ripley jumped in the ring and just was pounding on somebody. And you never kind of get tired of that feeling, And so I think that's just, sort of that combination of those things, and wanting to kind of tell a story about somebody who their failures actually prepared them for what their life was really about. Because oftentimes, especially in this guy, the story is about Mad Dog Morgan. He's this indie wrestler, wanting to be in the big arenas, never gets there, develops an alcohol problem, and his life essentially sort of becomes nothing. And he feels like, the only way I can get out of this, I'm going to go drink myself to death, right?
Yeah.
And what little does he know is the house he goes to drink himself to death in, he thinks it's some abandoned house, but it's really a haunted house. And it preys on the weak and the depraved, and it transforms them into horrors inside of it. And so this road of failure was the only way he could get to this house, right? And yet at this house is where he was going to have the true main event of his life, right? And so maybe that's even bigger than just the impetus, but like that's kind of at the core of what this story is this guy redeeming all of his failures in this one great main event.
I love it. Like I say, it's like a true wrestling story too, because you wind up rooting for the underdog, especially one that goes through the self-punishment, so to speak, and just like what they feel that they got to redeem themselves in some manner, and then
Totally.
this come out of this, like, and especially in a challenge like this, combining these different worlds. I mean, this book definitely does have a few themes going with it, but wrestling is one that especially jumps out. And why do you think that's such an easy fit for the world of comics?
Well, I think that one is that, comics in general are over the top. They are performance. They are sports entertainment, if you will, right? Because they are, you have bigger than life characters when you think about this on the superhero side. Also, art and sort of character element of drawing can give you bigger, explosive personalities, which is what kind of wrestling is, right? And in fact, what makes wrestling so fun is all these signature moves that people have, right? Or that's one of the many things, right?
Yeah.
But like when you see those signature moves, a comic book is a perfect place to sort of realize them. Big epic off the top rope moonsaults,
Yeah.
have total place in a comic book. And so I love it completely. And I feel like the comic book medium, just especially my artist, Maxie's kind of a little James Heron like in his style. He's just an amazing artist. And his characters are just slightly caricatured, so things feel just a little over the top, which feels right in that wrestling vein. So I feel like there's kind of a marriage always meant to be.
Yeah, it's just one that I think that really you see a lot of synergy that's there, and like I like how you touched upon, because sometimes wrestlers are larger than life characters, much like our superheroes are, and you
Yeah,
think about that, and just how they connect with the audience too, because it's so simple to think about, good versus evil, and
yeah,
heels and faces to take it to the wrestling terms. Like there's
totally.
a lot of stuff that connects, and you see a lot of crossovers with that audience. And I think that's something that really is going to jump out about this book too, because getting this put together, and we are seeing a resurgence in this in the comic field. Because like I say, Do a Power Bomb is one that came out.
Yep.
Hardstyle Juice is another great one that really encompasses the whole world of wrestling and comics. And to bring it back at this time, like I think that there's such a creative surge for it, and plus the market I think is wide open for it. Would you say?
Yeah, yeah. No, in fact, it was funny because I had already written Mad Dog Morgan, and I was already started some art on it when Do a Powerbomb came out. And I love Daniel Warren Johnson. He's one of the most epic creators in the realm of comic books. And when that dropped, I was like, oh no, is it going to be horror? Because I'll look like the guy who's late to the party. Fortunately, it's not. But I loved the all the heart and passion he has in that book, and I think that this story, Mad Dog Morgan, I often say is this is the wrestler meets the Shining,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like the heart of the wrestler, where it's this man trying to resurrect his life, in the third act of it, while he's in the middle of this horrifying haunted house. And so like I often think that like that that the combining of that, and also just like you're mentioning, like this sort of resurgence of it in the arena of comics, is it's like we want, I think myself at least, like sort of an escapism journey when you pick up a comic.
Agreed.
Some people might be in it for other things, but that's what it's for me. And I think that those two things, because wrestling is definitely is an escapism experience, in all the best ways.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, anytime that you can kind of just escape and get lost in a great story, I think
Yep.
that is just so vital. That you
Yep.
just kind of to get a little break from reality, so to speak, but just to be entertained while that you're there, and especially with such a book that has so many different elements going on with it, and especially thinking about how complex Mad Dog is as a character.
Yeah.
How. I was going to say, how important is it as an introductory story, to make him a redeeming character? You want to see that redemption part of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the redemption in the character, like sort of in any great story, people are trying to redeem themselves in some way most often, or at least anytime you have a hero that has somewhat failed and is in the process of trying to redeem that. In the same way, even Batman is trying to redeem himself, right? He's trying to redeem the death of his parents, right?
Hmm.
This tragedy, this trauma that he never sorted out, right? He's still reliving it every night as he goes out, trying to stop burglars on the street, as he's trying to save his parents again, but he can't.
Right.
And I think that sense of redemption, pretty much any living human knows what it feels like to maybe have done something wrong, or to have your life in a place where you wish it wasn't. And that desire to make things right and to redeem maybe some of your bad choices, as well as rewarding your good choices, is deep in us. And I think in the world of wrestling, it just couldn't be more exciting. Because like you're saying, in the realm of heels and faces,
Yeah.
where many characters, in the narrative of wrestling, are trying to redeem themselves all over. I think I think that theme is just not only wrestling, it's life, and it's something we all love.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, there's just something about getting behind the underdog, and especially as they overcome the odds that they're faced against. That is just
Yeah.
something that locks you in. But especially adding the horror aspect into it, which can be tough to juggle along with the wrestling themes. But this is one that when you start creating this book, and we're talking 165 pages for this book too.
Yeah.
Which did you see the story start taking hold of? More into the horror realm, would you say, or still trying to find that fine balance between wrestling and horror?
Yes, I think what happened is it's the book starts in the ring and gets us into the house, right? So it's like we bring the wrestling into the horror, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I think that like so we start in the ring and then we find ourselves in the horror, and then the wrestling becomes intertwined with the horror, right? In the sense that his experience in the ring and who he was or wasn't there plays out in the horror, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then he physically battles it. You know, there's monsters, there are other people who like him had these failed lives that end up at the house, and then they fell prey to the house and became part of the evil inside of it. And so then it physically plays out, right, in conflicts that happen and all the action that takes place. There's, you know, and we all know that a suplex or a moonsault might not be the way to solve a fight in real life, but
Yes.
in the setting of this, it's a perfect play for all those maneuvers. And you know, because he was a jabroni in the story, right? He's a jobber, and so he never even really had a finishing move, right? And if you're a wrestling man, it's like, if you don't have that, what are you?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And so he was, you know, he wasn't the Undertaker with the tombstone. He didn't have any of that. And so ultimately, by the end of it, he like in his journey to defeat the evil inside, he also like becomes manifest in his signature move, right? So it's like a great visual metaphor for the emotional and spiritual journey going on underneath the surface.
Love it. I mean, and that's something too. Like I say, trying to find a balance with that's difficult. But to make it happen, you really have something special. Like I say, we don't have a lot of this at the comic shops right now because there's so much creativity going on, like no matter where you turn. But to
Yeah.
really implement these two elements into really driving this, it is something I think is going to jump out to readers when this goes live on October 7th. And especially too in dealing with the horror aspect of things. In your opinion, what is the key ingredient for a great horror story?
Well, I think horror has sort of three key elements that make it land. One is there's an element of dread, right? The thought that a threat is coming, and it's a threat that's much more powerful than you, right? In an action movie, your enemy is another guy, and you're a Navy SEAL, and he's a tough guy, and you're a tough guy, you're peers, right? But I think in a horror story, your enemy is wildly beyond you. It's overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's part of the key distinction. And so one is this element of dread. Two, that there's this threat that is not just a little tougher than you, it's a lot. So so the ability to win seems impossible. And then three, there needs to be some, I think at least in the comic book space, some great moments of sheer sort of violence and brutality that let you know the consequence of this evil monster or this threat, right? You have the dread that builds, and then they're seeing why you're so afraid, and it's because somebody's jaw just got ripped off in front of you, and it's like, okay, now this is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of creating those three elements and tying them into this story. And the way the house works is it lures them in, and then it starts playing things on the television that start bringing back the different points of his life, trying to break him down emotionally. And that dread starts to build in the shadows around him, and then it starts to explode into something far worse.
Yeah, I have to agree because, like, especially like with horror, you really want to drive home the danger involved with it. Like,
Yeah.
like not to say you need to go to an extreme level with it, but you need to have something that really hits the reader about the impact of these actions and why. And like I say, I agree with you completely on that. And especially with horror being so popular again, like it kind of really, we're seeing a lot of resurgence with that in the comic world. And in pop culture too.
Totally.
I think, yeah, you're seeing a lot more of it come out, and especially everybody's really pushing a creative spin on this, much like we're seeing with Mad Dog Morgan, and especially now going to Kickstarter. I mean, it's all, you know, creator owned and going and really making your own vision come to life. Like, what is the pros and cons of doing a campaign like this?
Well, I think the pro of it is that you get to create something that has all your heart in it, has all your vision laid out, and not that it's not unedited or that you haven't refined it, but that it's unfiltered, right? It isn't necessarily gone through the filter of a publisher or someone else. It's what you had hopefully wanted in your heart and in your mind about this story, and it gets to lay out. And then you get to create something that's special for the fans, right? You get to build something, a unique cover. In this case, we have a leather-bound edition of the book. We've got T-shirts. There's a mask, the Mad Dog Morgan mask. There's special edition, the special edition covers. There's also this special foil print. So that way, also too, by like getting in on the journey, getting this unfiltered, balls to the wall story, you also get the physical manifestation of it too, in that you get get the book in a way no one else will ever get it. So that's like the pros and exciting part of it. Cons of it is it's an incredible amount of hustle, and fulfillment is tough, and making sure everybody's taken care of who backs the book is a lot of work, but truly worth it. And I've done several of these campaigns, and I've delivered a lot, and it's been really gratifying to see the connection and people reading. But the con is all the hustle.
Well, like I say, with if it's worth it, it's not easy. That's one thing I always say.
Yeah.
In life. Like I say, you want to have the grind about it, and really give something back to the fans with that. I think that with every great campaign, you see the creators are really going above and beyond to give them something too. And especially with this campaign, I was going to say, what else can you really talk about it? Because we touched a little bit about the
Oh, sure.
but yeah, but what else do you have coming with this? Because you touched upon we have a mask coming, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah. So what we've got here for the campaign is I broke it down into just 2 tiers. There's the jabroni. This gets you in, get you the book, the special edition. It's got a slip case. It's hardcover with a slip case, and you get the special foil print. And if you back it in the first 48 hours, you'll get the New York Comic Con exclusive ash can.
Oh,
right,
nice.
free, toss into your order. It'll be the only way to ever get it, except for the handful of folks who run into me there at Comic-Con in New York. And so it's a special, cool collector's item. The only time we'll ever release it, and that's a rad thing. And then there's a higher tier, which gets you a leather-bound edition of the book, gets you the shirt, the mask, the sticker packet, the foil print, and the ash can at any time you back. And then obviously there's add-ons. Everything's an add-on as well, except for the ash can. And so that you can kind of make your own package. But that's what's in store as far as like a great, physical buy and a great item to get out of it. And then obviously there's a beautiful animated trailer, which we've just dropped. And there's a lot of just getting to know the creators and seeing the work. A lot of great preview pages. So, and anybody who hasn't backed the campaign, it's an incredibly fun thing to do, to be a part of the journey on something.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I think that's something that really you're seeing a lot more fans get involved with. Especially Kickstarter is so DIY that everybody wants to get at a ground level with something like this. And we know this is the first volume. Is it safe to say, without spoiling anything, are we going to see more of Mad Dog Morgan in the future?
You will. I'll leave it at the you will.
Okay.
When you read the book, the way the ending, there's some twists in there. That when you see it, you'll see what could be more, what more there could be. I'll leave it at that.
That's very fair to say, because like I say, I don't want anybody to get spoiled, because we've seen the preview art. Preview art looks amazing, and especially when you're going over ideas with Maxie. Was there any idea that you can say that maybe went like too far? You're like, no, this is pro wrestling. We gotta go big. We gotta go loud with it. Like, is there a moment in the book that maybe you're saying is like the defining moment of Mad Dog, like as far as action goes?
Yes, I mean the defining moment is when he does his signature move at the end called Hell's Cannonball.
Okay.
And that is I think that's the defining moment for when, physically. And then there's this great moment because the house has been essentially trapping in all these souls and over the centuries and collecting them. And they've been fueling this house, and they're trapped inside of it. And part of him breaking the house is not just getting himself out. It's really actually freeing all these other innocent people who are stuck, right? This is his good deed. And so he had this trouble when he was trying to be a wrestler, is that he couldn't dazzle the marks, right?
Yeah.
And his coach was always talking to him about, it's not just the fight. It's not just who wins or loses. It's dazzling the marks, right? As we know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his weakness. And so in this sort of, this defining moment, near the end of the story, he finally dazzles the marks. And it gets played out with this girl who lives across the street from the house. She's in a wheelchair, and she's kind of been watching this house over the years. It's kind of calling to her, and sometimes, and she gets in her wheel. She sees that Mad Dog Morgan's in a pinch at one point, and she gets in her wheelchair and rides it off the roof of her house and smashes through the front door and calls out his name. And that's like his defining moment, that he did the thing that he always struggled with, was he dazzled the marks.
Oh, that's interesting. I can't wait to see that along with the rest of the story with this, because I mean, like I say, there's a lot of different elements going on with this too.
Yeah.
And like I say, this is gonna be one that fans are gonna want to check this out when this goes live on October 7th on the Kickstarter. And we do have the link in this podcast and on YouTube, so you can definitely go find it and make sure you don't miss it. Before we let you go, though, a couple more quick questions for you. Now, obviously, you've delved in horror in your writing. What is your favorite horror story of all time?
Because I'm trying to think of favorite story, because it could be movie, could be book, could be comic.
Whichever one, like if somebody says like, what's your favorite, like your go-to, like if you want to say, listen, when I think horror, I think this.
Yeah, I think of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Okay.
movie directed by Tobe Hooper. I think there's maybe never been another horror movie that's maybe kind of hit me like that one. That was like kind of lived in you. You go back and revisit it all these years later, and it still hits you like a ton of bricks. Everything about that film, it was just so tight and so perfectly crafted. And then a modern example that I'm loving is John Lee's and Alex Cormack's horror series Sing.
Okay.
It's set in this fictitious town outside of Glasgow, and it's this almost anthology, like of these different people involved in the horror surrounding this dark suburb. It's incredible. So if I would give you like maybe the origins, the Texas Chainsaw, and then like a modern horror story that's just really getting me.
No, definitely worth checking out too. And since we're talking wrestling, who is your favorite wrestler? Or who is your favorite wrestler, should we say?
Oh yeah, I mean, of all time, it's without a doubt the Undertaker. Once again, like there's the legacy guy that as a kid you're like, that's the guy, And I was later, I was writing something for Netflix, and they brought me in to write something for him, and it was a kind of dream come true. And but he's so that was like, that's all time favorite, right?
Yes.
And then I think like right now, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, Rhea Ripley, I freaking love that girl. Like she's just such
amazing.
Right, what a dynamo! Like, and it's like in the ring right now that I keep kind of getting glued to her wherever she's at. And there's other great wrestlers happening right now, but like if I were to pick a one, she's kind of the one in my mind.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I mean, she has the it factor. Like you say, like she understands how to work the crowd. I think like with Dominic Mysterio right now too.
Yeah.
Somebody that, just understands the ring psychology. And I think that's
totally,
when you want to do the wrestling, you want to say about popping the marks and, really getting the crowd behind it, or, getting the reaction, because that's the biggest thing in all wrestling. You want to get the reaction of the crowd one way or another, unless it's, go home heat. You don't want any part of that, but you want to make sure you get something there. That, I think, we're seeing a lot of that now in wrestling too. And I think, once you're seeing everybody that really understands the ring psychology aspect of that, like that's where it comes to play. And I like how you tied that in with Mad Dog Morgan too. That he was missing that, but as we go with his journey moving forward, that it's going to be something I think everybody's going to want to see about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, we can't say thank you enough for coming on the show. And we're reminding everybody again, October 7th, Kickstarter. You don't want to miss out on Mad Dog Morgan. You want a fantastic blend of horror, wrestling, and comics. It'll be there right in your possession. You could just click, get copies, get multiple ones. We want to see more of this story as the days are going on, because obviously you can have one WrestleMania, but you can also have 40 too. You just have to go back. So maybe we'll get a 40th edition of Mad Dog Morgan someday. I don't know, but we have to get past one. But that is because you went out and you got behind this on an early stage. Adam, can't thank you enough for coming on the show. We definitely have to talk to you soon about this.
Excellent, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Thank you. Absolutely. And we'll end this like we always do on Turn a Page. Thank you as always for checking out the home of pop culture positivity. And when you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue in your hand that you ordered on Kickstarter and you got it early, like Mad Dog Morgan, and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand them a copy because you bought two and tell them to turn a page. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me, we don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. Whoa.